plain text emails. Now, we all love a good HTML email. That's the one with the images. But sometimes a different format makes more of an impact. Why a brand or organization would choose to send out plain text emails instead of HTML emails. Now, in the fast-paced, short attention span world that we live in, you'd think it makes more sense to send out an email with more imagery and less text, right? Well, yes and no. That can work really well for some brands, and maybe for others, maybe due to their audience breakdown, there's a better mix. So there are actually several reasons why a brand might choose to send plain text emails. And the first is that they're a better choice for non-traditional inboxes. So for example, if you're sending to an audience that might view their emails on a smartwatch, they're much more likely to be able to view those if they're plain text emails. It's way easier for that to load on something like a smartwatch. Another reason is that there are typically fewer distractions compared to a traditional HTML email. So when the email is opened, the audience member doesn't have to scroll around or get distracted by different things popping up, GIFs or graphics. They know to read the text. And if it's an appropriate amount for the message you're trying to send, then that message might be getting across a lot quicker than it would with an HTML email. They're also much lighter, which means that they'll load quickly and easily on mobile. And that's a really big benefit because if people don't have the attention span to linger and scroll through your email, they won't have the patience to wait for your email to load if it's heavy. Those are just a few reasons why plain text emails might be chosen over HTML. But we also have a few more to go over. So the first one here on the left, not all email clients universally support HTML. So this is actually a great way to avoid formatting issues. And I'm sure we've all seen them in our inbox before, maybe something that cuts out or something that doesn't look quite right. Probably one of my favorite reasons for choosing plain text emails is that they're meant to be clear and that they can really force a brand to simplify their message. And in doing so, you can get that message across a lot quicker and a lot cleaner. Another element of plain text emails that HTML doesn't always have is that personalization factor. So they can come across as a lot more personal. It's almost like an email that you're sending to a friend or family member if you do it correctly. But these are some reasons that a business would choose plain text. And sometimes businesses will lean more in this direction due to their audience's preferences or what's performing. And then sometimes they'll kind of lean more in the HTML direction. And there's no one right or wrong way to do it. But there are some best practices for writing plain text emails. Now, although designed and branded emails are the standard practice, sometimes it can pay off to do an email in a different format because it can either tug at the heartstrings or make more of an impact in a different way. And we'll talk about that more in the upcoming slides. As you begin writing for different clients at Flowium, you'll occasionally write plain text emails like this one on the right from Litmus. As you can see, there is a logo up top there. Some plain text emails have that and some don't, but generally it will be only the text. So we want to make sure that we really pay attention to how we're writing these and how we're making things mesh with the brand voice that the client has established over time through email and across their socials and website. Now, plain text emails, as we discussed, use only text. So you're not going to see things like images or stylized fonts. These are the things that you would find maybe in a client's brand book. You're not going to see graphics and branding. You may sometimes see a colored background or a colored section, but typically you're going to just see text. There won't be any HTML code or formatting either. So if we take a look at this example from Liaison on the right, we have a bit of personalization and then just text. And the thing to make sure of here, and we'll get more into this in best practices, but we don't want to just have a wall of text. We want to make sure that the email remains readable. So this is the basics on plain text emails. Now, keep in mind there is a bit of a formula when it comes to plain text emails. So I'm going to go over each piece one by one and we'll talk a bit more about it. So first thing, there is no preview text. So when you're writing a plain text email, you actually don't have to worry about adding a preview text at all because that is not included in the Klaviyo sends for plain text emails. Second thing to keep in mind, there are typically no headers, subheaders, or titles throughout your email. Now, again, depending on the brand, you can flex this a little bit and you could put a general title for something, maybe 5 tips for a great holiday season or something like that. But typically we want to stay away from that because we do want this communication to be a little bit more personal and a little bit more authentic. So try to avoid using headers, subheaders, or titles in the body copy. And so yes, that does mean that there will be no header text required for plain text emails either. So no preview text, no header text, subheader or title text, and then no images. So where we would insert images typically in an email, you don't have to worry about that. Last thing, no CTAs. And this one's kind of tricky because we do want to hyperlink things. And so this one is about Old Man Emu's MT64 shock. So this is linked here really strategically. So when we talk about what's in the ride review, we can provide a hyperlink. And then same thing at the very end, check out our blog for all the details. It's also hyperlinked there. So what you want to do is try to organically hyperlink things that would actually be CTAs in an HTML email. So if, for example, you have 5 products to go over, maybe 5 supplements that you're trying to sell, you would try to kind of throw them into a sentence and link that product or a specific section of the sentence. So pretend we're writing a Father's Day campaign and, or a Mother's Day campaign, and we want to sell mom on collagen or whatever, sell the audience on getting collagen for mom. We would say something like, make sure mom's skin and nails are feeling great for Mother's Day with collagen, and then link that. So obviously that's not a great example, but that general idea. We don't want to have the shop now or buy now or click here, explore this. CTAs, it's more in-text hyperlinks. And then there are 2 additional things that plain text emails have that HTML emails may not have, or just maybe included in the footer of those emails. So the unsubscribe and opt-out language, and this is something that you'll want to make sure to write in the guidelines. So as we can see on the left, these sort of emails, not your style, unsubscribe or manage your preferences here. And then also we'll have the physical address. And so here we have, give us a call at whatever, or visit the shop at 12711 Remote Boulevard or Wandale, California. So these are 2 additional things that plain text emails have. And I would say also, typically there's a sign off. So if we have someone's name, make the communication a little bit more personal, but also kind of pull in that, I'm talking to one person or a team individually. I'm not just being sent a mass email. So these are all of the elements and the key things to remember: no preview text, no header text, and all CTAs should be hyperlinked. There are no CTA buttons. So first things first, ensure there's no preview text or header text in the copy. We specifically want to stay away from headings and subheadings, so make sure not to include those. Ensure that all of your CTAs are embedded in the text in a thoughtful way. So maybe instead of saying shop now and embedding the CTA that way, we can say click here to learn more, or find out more on our blog, or explore product name here. So being a little bit more thoughtful about how we're presenting that information. Next, best practice, we want to add the unsubscribe and opt-out language, and also the physical address in the footer. So make sure that that is always there. That always has to go on plain text emails. Now this one we haven't talked about yet, but we want to make sure that copy sections are still broken up with white space. So a lot like HTML emails, it's easier to read copy if it's within shorter sections. So instead of a whole wall of text, split things up, and especially if it's a bit of a longer email, you can do multiple different sentences on multiple lines. That is totally fine. We're going for more of an authentic, friendly storytelling approach when we do plain text emails. but just consider readability all the time. That's top of mind. And then be mindful of how and how many links are placed in an email. So if you have 5 different products to go over and they all need to be linked, that's totally fine. Just be really mindful of how they're being linked in the email. Does it make sense? Is it too bulky? Is it coming off as impersonal? And then, of course, if you just have a couple links, maybe you have 2 links that you need to touch on, but you have 12 different hyperlinks in your email, then that's maybe a little bit too many. So just be mindful of how you're putting that information in there and how many links you're throwing in there, because sometimes we'll have emails that are longer, and we want to make sure that those links are individualized and people know, if I click on this, I'm going to go here. If I click on this, I'm going to go to this other page. But if it's going to be the same link over and over again, try to consider if it makes sense to have it linked so many times, or if it's okay linked just once or twice. And then remember, with plain text emails, like with any other emails, simpler is better. So these typically will have a little bit more text. That's kind of the point. And there will be more of a storytelling element and angle. It'll be a little bit more personal, but we should still try to keep them as simple as we can while getting that brand voice across, because that will just be better for engagement and really making sure that we have the audience's attention. So the next time that you're writing a plain text email, use these best practices, and I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park.
Hey, please click subscribe and hit the bell button. It helps our channel to grow and means world to us.